my talk is a little bit off the cuff, I guess you could say. So I hope it doesn't feel disorganized, but a little bit more like a uh, conversation, I guess. Because I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of the weird ways that we're using photogrammetry, um, weird and cool ways, actually. So let me just share my screen here. Well, actually, so a little bit about our team here at the Academy. We've been using photogrammetry for quite a while now, probably at least the last 10 years. And as several people have mentioned, it's changed so much over the years. It used to be quite uh, tedious, I would say, and you had to take all these photos with a decent camera. You had to upload them into the software. You had to have a really powerful computer, and you had to spend. Usually, we'd set it over the weekend and let it run all weekend just to get like the medium point cloud. Now you can do it on your phone, and so what I encourage people who are interested to do is to get, there's a couple of apps that I'm going to talk about. The one that I use most is Polycam, but there's also one called Scaniverse, which I think last time I used it, I thought it was free and it may still be free. I'll have to check on that for you because Polycam is paid. Um, but either way, it's on your phone. You can use it anytime, anywhere. And so I encourage people to develop a photogrammetry habit, is what I would say. Um, like with me, I'm constantly capturing things that I think are interesting, and then later finding a use for it often. So let me share my screen here, and we can look at some stuff. So here we go. And at some point, I'm gonna run out of time, so I may not be able to show you everything, but we'll just get to it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is um, just on Wednesday, I was actually speaking with one of our researchers here at the Academy. His name is Pim Bongartz, and he's leading this effort to do photogrammetry on coral reefs and in several different places around the globe. And they've been doing this for years now, where they go out and they do these transects with highly detailed photogrammetric models of reefs, and they return and do it year after year after year to study the change. And they're also sequencing the a lot of the corals that they find there genetically. So let me show you some of these are some of the scans that he's got. And what he was describing to me on Wednesday is that the way they've been doing it is this sort of transect that's like, I don't know, 15 feet long, where someone has to swim down there and photograph it. But then recently they've expanded their operation. So now they have an autonomous underwater vehicle that is scanning a much larger area while the divers are scanning this area. And so he showed me this huge 10 billion point cloud of this area. I think it was in Tonga. And so, anyways, they're doing this is I think this is super cool because they're actually using photogrammetry to do science, whereas we're usually using it for making movies. So anyhow, this is just a look at some of the stuff that Pim is doing. A lot of these are bleached corals, which he was telling me, it is a sad story. Like year after year, they go back and they're finding more and more of the reefs are getting bleached. But that's another reason why their work is so important. Um, this is a kind of a weird test that we did, my colleague. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is ways that we are interacting with the collections that we have here at the Academy. We have this huge collection of specimens and other interesting curiosities from the world. And so this is an Edward Muybridge stereographic photo. And we were like, I wonder what would happen if we ran that through Metashape. And so we did, and we actually got some decent results just from two photos. I thought that was pretty cool, to take a Muybridge photo and make it 3D. So, um, and then the other thing, so right now we're working on a show that is about the deep time history of California. And so we look at Ice Age California, which was full of mammoths and saber-toothed cats, um, and we also look at California during the Cretaceous. So there's a lot of creatures involved in that. And so, sorry, this is a little frenetic. This is just a screen capture. But so what I'm doing as I develop these creatures is I'm actually using photogrammetry quite a bit to help me with that. And we have a bunch of skulls that we've scanned. This is actually a an Ice Age lion, North American lion, which is now extinct. And I brought it in with some African lions, and this is actually a tiger right here. Um, so that I can do some comparative anatomy when I'm creating. I don't know if a Ice Age lion is going to make it into the show, but definitely a saber-toothed cat is. So I'm just trying to look at lots of different cats, and you can see I have four different saber-tooth skulls in here. And so as I create the model, I'm just trying to, rather than just using one, I'm trying to look at several so I can really try to see the similarities and differences between them and capture it as accurately as possible. I suppose you could say. Um, these are these two are coyote skulls, and this is a Eurasian wolf. Coyote's going to be a major character in this show, so we're working on making a coyote model. And then these are these two right here are actually California grizzly bears, which are a subspecies which is now was hunted to extinction in the 1800s. So, but we have two other skulls, which is quite fascinating to me. Um, some elk and pronghorn, and then so this right here, this is Kitty. Kitty is one of our fully articulated saber-toothed cats that we have actually on display right now. And this model was something that I went into the exhibit on the public floor and just did photogrammetry through the glass case. And what I got was, this couldn't be used in production for something, but as reference, it's really useful to me. And it's great to be able to, as opposed to just having photos, being able to tumble around these things and really understand their structure in 3 dimensions as you're creating a model or something like that is quite useful. Here's a California condor. Again, sorry about the choppiness of this video, but so this is another specimen from our collections, which is also on display in a different exhibit now. But I was able to do photogrammetry on this because we created this augmented reality condor experience, and I had to model the condor. So I used this to just to help me be able to get up close and see it in detail and understand the structure of the head and the feet. I wasn't too worried about the wings. I can sort of just look at a photo of that to get it, but things where I really wanted to see the detail of the head, and this was quite useful for that. So, and then another just more creature stuff here. This is a scan of a Ice Age bison skeleton. And we have a bison, we're gonna have herds of bison in the show, but we had a model of a modern day bison. Um, and I need to change that into a Ice Age bison. And you can see that one of the major differences is this much bigger hump on their back. Um, and so I used this 3D scan of a real Ice Age bison skeleton to help me rework our current bison model to fit that. And then also the horns are a bit different as well. Ironically, just yesterday we were meeting with one of our paleontologists to go into our collections to look at ammonites, which are extinct cephalopods from the age of the dinosaurs for our Cretaceous scene. And while he was showing us these, I was like, wait a second, what is this right up here? And it turned out to be Ice Age bison, the top of Ice Age bison heads. And so so I did some photogrammetry on those so I can refine the model even more. But it's really helpful. Um, and then another use of it is with our mammoth. So we're picturing Columbian mammoths in the show. And let me see if I can make this video make any sense to you. This is the model that we've been using for our pre-visualization. It's a model that we got off Turbo Squid. And it was kind of a generic mammoth model, but I think it's a woolly mammoth is what the person who created it was modeling it after. And we've rigged this up and animated some walk cycles and things just to get a feel for it. But as I look at it more and more, I'm like, this is not quite a Columbian mammoth. So I was able to get some photogrammetric models of a real Columbian mammoth skeleton. This is from the La Brea tar pits. And then sketching over it in Blender here using grease pencil, which that's a whole nother thing I'd love to talk about. But um, I just went through it and sort of analyzed the proportions to get a sense for where our mammoth was in relation to the target. And again, I apologize that this is so choppy, but you can see that the proportions are way off. This is like the head is much bigger here. Like if you were a human standing right here, I feel like the Colombian mammoth would feel much bigger just because of its proportions than this kind of feels smaller to me. Um, so anyhow, it helps inform me how I'm going to go through and reshape that model later on. Okay. Um, the other thing I wanted to speak a bit about is Gaussian splats. So um, you've probably heard that term. Some of you might know more about it than I do, but again, I'm using one of the apps I'm using is Polycam, which you can use right from your phone. You walk around and scan an object, and then it uploads everything to their server and runs it on their computers. So you don't need a super fast computer, and in a matter of minutes, you'll get back uh, the model, and you can process it either as a mesh or as a splat. And when you process it as the splat, you can then bring that into um, various softwares to turn like for example, this is in Blender using a add-on called Point Cloud Visualize, and you can see I haven't been able to figure out how to get it to look hyper realistic the way that it would when you look at it in a dedicated Gaussian splat viewer, but you can see that it creates this very painterly, interesting look, which I think is really quite kind of beautiful in its own way. And this is our a hall of dioramas here at the museum that I just went out and polycammed the whole thing. I've done this several times. You can see it. I didn't get this side very well. It starts to break down. There's usually lots of people too, which kind of makes it hard. Um, but you can see the sort of the painterly quality of this. And so I think we've been experimenting a lot with this, and I think we're gonna find a way to integrate this into our show. This was I was down in LA and I went to the Wax Museum and I was polycam and everything there. So there's the man with no name. Uh and you can see just how sort of strange and bizarre the fall off is around. This is Meg Mucklebones from the movie Legend. Sorry, I thought this was fun. There's Dr. Jones. Um so yeah, using it for splatting is quite interesting. Uh okay, looks like I still have a few more minutes. So I wanted to show you a bit of my library in Polycam. This is another thing that's really nice about Polycam is that it organizes it keeps everything in one place. You can organize it into albums. You can browse other people's albums as well. So these right here are some more artifacts from our collections here at the Academy. This is actually a duck decoy from the Modoc people in Northern California. Uh, it's really beautiful. We're actually featuring this in the upcoming show as well, and you can see these beautiful baskets. Um, so it's a really great way, particularly when you have this amazing set of collections here at the museum, to be able to capture them and then utilize them in some of our productions. Uh, and then I do a lot of like I got this crazy neighbor who goes all out for Halloween, and so I keep polycamming their setup just for fun. It's quite amazing. This is actually like probably 3 weeks before Halloween, and he just kept adding stuff every day until then. So, sorry, this one's a little too dense. Oh, this is a splat actually, so you can see the sort of difference with it. Um, anyhow, sorry, that's chugging. These are some of the ammonites that we captured yesterday that again are helping inform the way that I model these in 3D. These are like 100 million years old. And then just one other idea for anyone who's sort of interested in picking up the habit. It can be used for a lot of other things too. Like this is a diorama that my son made, which I thought was really sweet. But it's also the kind of thing that we don't want to keep around forever. So um, So he and I did a photogrammetric model of it, and now we can keep it forever. So anyhow, that's a bit about what we're using photogrammetry for, and I'm happy to, if I'm sorry if I haven't been checking the chat, but I'll answer any questions that anyone has. So thank you.